pulling down the bill of your hat and squinting against the prairie wind while perched on top of a boxcar, you could barely make out the Alberta foothills. It was 1932 and Canada was hit with the relentless Great Depression. Painfully hungry hobos lay on top of these boxcars, covering themselves with their Hudson Bay blankets, making their way out of Vancouver. The dirty 30s left little hope for many. The Great Depression crippled the Canadian economy, leaving 1 in 9 citizens on relief, and this relief did not come free. In 1935, 1,600 unemployed men, protesting the dismal conditions of the federal relief camps, scattered across Western Canada's remote areas, boarded trains in Vancouver bound for Ottawa, with no unemployment benefits, no medical coverage or pensions, and working for 20 cents a day. The belief was solidified: they were slaves. Due to this unrest, the On to Ottawa trek began. With the authorities prohibiting any attempt to form unions, frustrations grew, and it all came to a head in Regina, Saskatchewan. The number of demonstrators swelled. Prime Minister R.B. Bennett intervened and ordered the protest disbanded. After inviting only 8 protest leaders to Ottawa, a shouting match ensued, with Bennett accusing Trek leader Arthur Slim Evans of being an extortionist, and Evans in turn calling Bennett a liar. The delegation was escorted out of the building and back to Regina, where a contingent of RCMP was waiting. After returning to Regina to reunite with the other protesters, on July 31st, 1935, a meeting was called in the Market Square. This is now the site of the Regina Police Station. Police, after hearing a whistle at approximately 8 p.m., charged and engaged in hand-to-hand combat, setting off riots all over the city. The battle continued for hours in surrounding streets. Tear bombs were thrown into groups that gathered, and store windows were smashed, although stores were not looted. Wearing wet handkerchiefs to counter the tear gas, Trekkies made their way back to the exhibition grounds where they had set up their main camp. That is when one Trekker decided to call the Premier of Saskatchewan, James Garfield Jimmy Gardner, who agreed to meet with them the next day. After trekkers and citizens were arrested, a protester died, 1 policeman killed, the city's exhibition grounds were surrounded by more policemen with revolvers and machine guns. Barbed wire was eventually put up around the protesters, who were then denied food and water. Keeping a watchful eye on the process, Premier Gardner decided to step in. Headlines across Canada stated that police incited the riot, and this infuriated the RCMP. And through the night, Trek delegates were interrogated and later released in order to attend this meeting with Premier Gardner. The Prime Minister R.B. Bennett received a wire from Premier Gardner accusing the police of participating in the riot during the negotiation settlements. An agreement in order to undertake the work of disbanding the protest was negotiated. This satisfied Bennett, who believed he had smashed the riot. On July 2nd, a false statement was made to the House of Commons stating that shots were fired by protesters first and then replied with shots from the police. Long trials followed with no evidence that showed the protesters fired any shots during the riot. It was generally believed that Bennett felt that the On to Ottawa trek was not only an uprising against the law, but also a revolutionary effort on part of the group to disrupt the authority and government. Bennett did not escape the fallout, though. 3 months after the Regina riot, during the federal election campaign, Prime Minister promised radical reforms. And during the political campaign, Bennett promised health care, unemployment insurance, minimum wage, but too late. William Lyon Mackenzie King defeated him on October 1939. In a federal investigation, it was concluded that the relief camps were no longer in the best interest of Canada. Housing that contained 170,000 men for 3.5 years would be closed. The effects on this event helped to discredit Bennett's Conservative Party, thus decreasing his seats from 134 to just 39. Although the trek did not make it all the way to Ottawa, the demands of the protesters were actually met, and the public support behind the trek helped to set the social reforms and welfare provisions for the post-war era.